Yeah, and let me share the tweet. Is it still working? Won't let me tweet it for some reason.
What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know. It just wouldn't let me tweet it out.
Hmm. Weird.
Oh well. It's all good. And so, did you enjoy this?
Yeah, I did. It was great. It was an awesome book.
It's funny because I kind of put off reading it for a while because I was like a little worried that it was going to be more like get off my lawn um than it was, and I really really enjoyed it. I found so much relevant philosophy in it that I think like watching back all the stuff that's been happening in the last couple days out of camp and stuff, like Mike Brown is like, he's a teacher. Like, I'm sure he's read this book. Like, they keep saying almost word for word some of this stuff. Like we were watching on Brendan's stream, he put on the that last episode of The Run, and in it Jordy says like, go get a great shot. Just get a good shot every time. And that's just like that's his philosophy, right? Obviously some of it could be just general coaching philosophies too. I don't know how much of it is specific to Pete, but I've just been hearing so much of it in like the pressers and the interviews, and so anyways, I think that's kind of cool. And it's amazing that it carries over so much. Like it's 30-year-old book basically, right?
Right. Yeah, it's pretty old now.
But I do
But
feel like a lot of what he's talking about too is what basketball is now. Like it's spread out, it's pace and space, it's I mean, he talks about the zone defenses and stuff too. He talks about how to break down a zone, talks about the back cuts. But I feel like
mhm.
he saw sort of the future of basketball, and then I feel like the good Kings team bought into that. I mean, obviously that was Rick Adelman was the head coach, right? But I wonder how much weight Pete's philosophy had on it. Because clearly he was a part of that coaching staff because of his relationship with Jeff, right? Not
Right. I think it was Jeff, not Rick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Initially. Yeah.
right. So, but
I would
anyways,
I would imagine that would be the case. Actually, it might have been that Rick probably knew. And this guy's winning hella games over in Princeton University with a bunch of Ivy League players. So he's probably doing something right.
yeah, and I guess I really don't know like what the culture is like. I know that like there's times that like it'll come across my feed like, oh, this coach did like a shout out to another coach by playing this play or what have you, and it could very well be that this is just something that all coaches read and all coaches are aware of, and they take what they can take from it, etc. But like I said, I found a lot of like the talking points in the media day and stuff to be like almost word for word. Like it's just crazy. So okay, so let me do my thread. Break in if you want. It's set so people can enter as speakers if they want to. We might have to kick people out, but I doubt it.
Sure,
Um,
got it. Got it.
so I started trying to take notes, and then that didn't work out so good. But the smart take from the strong. So he likes teaching, he likes hard work, courage, substance, high expectations. He likes to win. He likes connectivity, likes layups quite a bit, likes 3-pointers, likes back cuts, like passing over a press, likes fundamentals, and he really likes Jeff Petrie. He dislikes recruiting, flashy style over substance. He dislikes drills, but then he like gave us a couple drills that he thought were really good. he seemed to dislike stuffing it, which I think is just dunking, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Um, he dislikes
Oh, I
guys
remember
who
that now. Yeah.
score a lot in losses. Dislikes refs who got paid too little. Like he went off on like how if a ref got paid $900 the night before and then he's getting paid $200 this night, he's like not going to be as good, which I thought was interesting. And then I thought like the outdated language was stuff it is just a dunk, I think. And then he said press for defense, which I'm assuming he just meant defense generally, or it could have been full court press. I wasn't sure about that one. And then he talks a lot about making the game shorter or longer instead of, I think today, like people would say the pace, right? That's the pace of the game. But he talks about lengthening the time that you are on the clock, basically. But then he also talks about how the shot clock got introduced into the game while he was a college coach, which also changed the dynamic of the game. So I looked up the shot clock was introduced to basketball in 1954. And then for college basketball, the shot clock started in 1985. It was 45 seconds, went down to 35 in 93, 94. And then in this book, he was saying it's now 30 seconds, apparently. So he was saying, and this was written in 1996, so they probably had a 35-second clock. And he says at one point he thinks it would be too hard to like put your entire strategy into a 24-second clock like they do in the pros. But I feel like they were pretty successful at that, at least at the Kings. So maybe his ideas on that changed. Um,
Once he became a pro coach, yeah, because
yeah,
the book ends with him saying, he's becoming a pro coach now, and so
yeah,
he's going to check out the pros and see how he does there as an
yeah.
assistant. Yeah.
And then, oh, maybe I cut off. Oh, and then the jump balls. He was talking about how jump balls changed because they used to just every possession was a jump ball, I guess, or something. It says like so in 1981, college basketball went away from jump balls during the game and added the possession arrow instead. So there's only the two jump balls. Um, which like the jump ball thing, I don't know. He was saying there was like games that were like 10 to 12 or something as the ending score. So that seems like a good rule to change if it was slowing the game down that much. That seems quite insane.
I would like.
Uh,
I actually think I would like to try. I guess they do it in college. They do 30 seconds. They did 35 recently, but I would like to see a longer shot clock. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
I'd like to see the more passing, more like his teams did, more passing, more cutting, more screens, and leading into handoffs or handoffs leading into I like to see more stuff going on besides like in a regular NBA possession. They're bringing up the court in like 8 seconds, six at the very minimum. They can bring it past half court after a score, and then you know, and then they run a pick and roll or a pick and pop, and they run some other play, and it breaks
yeah.
down, and then they kick it out to their leading scorer to try to make something happen, like they do with Fox, and it's
It's
just kind of
fairly
like,
homogenous for sure.
and it's got to be quick. There's no chance for a second action. Really, no second real play. There's no real chance for that in most possessions, unless of course they miss, but then they only have 14 seconds after they get the offensive rebound. So
Right.
they have no much time at all. So I'd like to see that actually. I mean,
Although
I
I
think.
guess like my argument against that would just be that college basketball is sort of even more homogenous in my opinion.
Oh,
Like
really?
and maybe I'm not as well versed in it as I should be, but it's very much like the old school game of like kind of get the ball into the center, I
Yeah.
think it's getting to be more of like a 3-point game, but they don't have the perimeter dominance at that level that they do at the NBA at the moment.
Huh.
So it's not. I guess I'm not. I don't think that the shot clock is like increasing their complexity a lot, but they're also dealing with a totally different population of players, right? You're not dealing with guys who are all going to go play basketball for a living. you're dealing with guys who, came to be on your team for whatever
Right. Yeah.
reasons,
I mean, that's the problem I have with college, and it's just a simple problem. I can get over it. I'm sure. Is that they're just not as good as the NBA players. It's like they have more consistent kind of breakneck pace effort. They're trying hard, they're playing hard all the time. It seems like to me, at least, watching the little college basketball that I watch, but they're just not as good.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
They're a lot
it's
better in the NBA at
yeah,
basketball.
yeah.
So that's
I'm
my thing with
interested to
that.
see like what all happens like with the addition of all these with the addition of all these different like overtime elite and ignite and all these other options, and then plus like the NIL money. I
Yeah.
wonder if that'll change the dynamic significantly. I mean, and there's more of an impetus to be like a star in college, which I think he would say is not a good thing, right? Because you need a team to win.
Hmm. For sure.
Um,
For sure. That's what he would say for sure.
and like if you're playing for money at that level too, on top of everything else, on top of like getting a chance, I wonder how much that changes the stakes for guys, I guess. But
Yeah. Mhm.
who knows? I guess we'll find out. I loved when he talked about like tailoring the scheme around his guys. Like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
the so when you teach basketball, it has technical parts and it has life parts. Um, and how he talks about it's kind of like I went back to the mid-range theory a little bit, where like you have all this data, but it's it's only data, right? Like it's not the human is what makes everything diverge from your X's and O's or from your plans. So I love how he's talking about like know your players, know what they're capable of, know their weaknesses and their strengths, and plan around that.
Definitely.
Make your plan around that. And then he talked about the minutes too, which I think like I think from an outsider looking in, I tend to think of it as like, oh, this guy's going to get this many minutes and this guy's going to get this many minutes and rotate in and rotate out. But the way that he's talking about it is like knowing how tired guys get, how they play when they're tired. So how can you optimally use guys at
Hmm.
for what amount of minutes? Like if you have a guy and you're like, I don't know, like Terrence Davis is a good example where you're like, okay, I can sneak him in 14 minutes a game and I know he's gonna kill it out there and play his guts out and do the best he can in that amount of time, and he doesn't need the 30 minutes. Or like I have De'Aaron Fox. I know he gets super tired after 35 minutes. I know his legs are dead. I know he doesn't play great anymore. I'm going to buy him more minutes throughout the course of the game. But anyways, I thought those were both really good. I just like how he talked about like the responsibilities of being a coach, how it's about putting your guys in the best position they can be in, um, and using them to their best advantage. Like, and I think we've talked about that like with Jerry's book too, of like the role players like Scott Pollard or the deep bench guys who, if you know what they can do for you and you use them properly, that's like the best you can get on any scenario. Like they'll be a hero and you'll win the game, you know? So,
Hmm.
so this, so I'm just kind of going through the kind of
Yeah.
coach I am. I want things to go right all the time. Winning is in the details. Maybe other coaches would be satisfied with a guy driving through the middle and passing the ball to an open teammate, but not me. I also expect a pass to be delivered to the shooter's shooting hand so
Hmm.
that the ball can be caught and released quickly and efficiently. We work on those details by the hour. The coach has to make sure that he is watching and that he corrects every mistake and doesn't take any shortcuts. So I thought that was really interesting too. And that's like a lot of like what Mike Brown's been saying too, is like it's the little things, it's all in the details. And I want it to be done right the first time and every time after that, so that it makes sense that we're practicing it, because if you're just doing something wrong over and over again, what's the point of that?
Yeah, practicing the wrong thing isn't gonna help you.
Then what to emphasize, whatever you emphasize, feel free to totally break in, or um, read something else, or so whatever you
Yeah, I got something I'm
emphasize.
trying to read, but I'm trying to find it. But it's I can just relate it, I guess, if I could just I wish I could find it. But it's a story you told of like he they were like they won the league, the Ivy League or something like that. They won something. It was locked up, and like he said, he told his players at like before they went out of the locker room to start the game that you don't have to worry about winning this game. It's not that big a deal. We got it locked up. There's no reason to sweat this one too much. And then his players went over. He saw his players talking after he left. He walked to the court. And his players were still over there talking. Turns out they were taking bets on when he was going to when he was going to change his tune, when he was going to like start yelling at them to win, 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 win. Because he hates to lose. He loves to win. He hates to
Yeah,
not win. He hates to not. I don't know how to put it. He's all about winning, Coach Carril.
yeah.
And then like after 45 seconds of the game, he started yelling at them and cussing them out. Or he wasn't cussing them out, but he was yelling at them. And um, and they were laughing about it. The bench guys and the bench guys on the bench were just laughing because like
That's
he didn't last that
awesome.
long at all. I thought that was a great story about him, what he's like. He wants to win no matter what, and it's just built in him to win every as much as he can.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of like his philosophy is about being able to support his guys in a way that can help them win, he and then he's supposed to come in with the strategy that supports their skill level. And then
Mm,
yeah, like it's very high expectations for himself and for them. And that's probably, I mean, he talks in here a couple times about how having high expectations is super important, because if you have low expectations, it's easier to fall below them, I guess.
yeah.
um
Another one
I
I
lost.
like is it's from the middle of my thread. I guess the second one down, the top left is stern discipline. Basically, I'll summarize. I won't read it all because it's a little bit of a paragraph, but like the sterner the discipline, the greater the devotion. So like the discipline from the coach in this case, and the strenuous nature of the practices and how they're put through and how they're taught builds devotion between the teammates and gives them opportunity. He says, I always believe that when you ask guys to give more than they think they can give, you provide them the opportunity to develop a level of devotion to each other and to their cause that is greater than it would be in less exacting circumstances. And of course, you see this with like military training. People go through boot camp and they develop a bond. People go through actual war and they develop a bond. And of course, basketball games are a lot less than that. But still, if they
Yeah,
put
I
the
wonder. Like, sort of talks about at the end, like saying that guys, it's different now. Like, guys need more love and less
oh yeah, I
discipline,
remember that. Yeah.
um, and I agree with him. However, I still think that like the fundamental through line is still true, right? Is like have high expectations, put your guys in that position to succeed. Um, yeah, I mean, and accountability, I guess. I think it's maybe called accountability more now than discipline, right? Although he
Mm-hmm.
defines discipline at one point where he says discipline is really just like having that consistency of like trusting your own skills and making the right decision in the moment. So to that level, I think that is where you're trying to get with every basketball player that you're coaching, is that they're making the right decision in the moment on the floor, right? With all this other stuff going on, with them seeing the ball and seeing the other players, they're also making the right decision. um yeah, and I thought that was really great.
Okay.
um
So yeah.
so he had this one, what to emphasize, and he
Mm-hmm.
just says whatever you emphasize and to the degree that you get better at it. So let's say you develop a defense that prevents easy unrestricted movement of the ball. you'll be better at it than somebody who did not emphasize it. So again, like I think that's really relevant and like where the Kings are at right now, right?
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
is our is Mike going to teach them defensive schemes, expect them, you know, to have that. We already know he already said like they're going to run. Um
Yeah. Again, run, run, run. Which
yeah. Yeah.
it's good. It's good because De'Aaron is fast and he's leading the break, and Sabonis can lead a break. Actually, he's not super fast, but he can bring the ball up on after an opponent miss. He can rebound the ball and bring it up and get it going.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to rebound it and pass it to De'Aaron to get it going. He can just start moving and pass it downhill. But I don't think pace matters that much. Touchdown Al convinced me of that. Doesn't have much effect on winning per se. There's no like correlation between it and winning or losing. There's
Right.
just a no correlation. No,
Yeah.
there's no effect. So,
Right. Except
every,
for I think you can like okay, in the possession that you're in, if you're playing fast and passing in a zippy and efficient way, and hitting guys, like he talks about it at some point, which I'm not sure that I highlighted or not, but if you're making good passes, every single good pass is increasing, I mean, I hate to use the stupid jazz band thing, but it's getting better and better the more passing, right? But
Mhm.
if you're making shitty passes, you're just increasing your chances to lose the ball and not make a shot. So
Right.
it's really about doing every single thing the right way, like putting the pass in the right place, all of that kind of thing. And I think like, yeah, like the Dave Yeager years,
Uh-huh.
where we just ran, like that was fun basketball. Um, but we didn't always get back to get a defense in place.
Mhm.
So I think that
Mhm.
would have added like a lot if we could have been number 17 in the league in defense or something instead of 22 or whatever. You know what I mean? So hopefully, I mean, I'm hoping even if we just like throw in a zone here and there, or like have other defensive strategies besides just man on man all the time. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I think Mike could do that because Omer Khan in his article for the King's Herald mentioned he schematically what can Mike Brown do? I think is the question for the 30 question series, and
yeah,
he mentioned that Mike Brown did, or the Golden State Warriors did zone, so that was either Kerr, Brown, or both of those guys. Wanted to, because Brown was a defensive coordinator for the Warriors last year, to do some zone from switch from possession would start man to man or start zone and go switch the other way based on what happened. They got some high IQ players on the Warriors though, so definitely high IQ
yeah.
players.
I don't know. I mean, I feel better about that than I did in past years as far as the Kings go.
Yeah, I agree. I agree as well with that. I agree with that. But I'm just saying they're really good on the Warriors. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how great we are. We're better than we have been for sure, but I think,
Well,
but
I
I'm not.
mean, for the most part, like their main players have been together for 7 years,
Yeah,
so that's a
yeah,
lot of
true.
practice. That's a lot of like getting the pass to the right place for the other guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So obviously, we're not going to be that, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't know, and without having seen any games, who really knows, right? But so
yeah.
I love that he also talks about that he could teach a guy basics, that having the three main skills is like imperative: dribbling, passing, shooting, right? And
Right,
that
right,
he was
right.
talking, and then he talks so specifically about like what is a good pass, what is a good dribble, and what he talks about a 3-point shot and like the angle of the shot, like if you can get it to a 45-degree arc, that's
Hmm.
like your best bet. But he was also saying like if somebody's shot is falling, like don't break it, like let them,
Oh yeah.
carry on, kind of thing.
I can comment on that with one of mine because I don't know what the first principle is, but what I put in my thread was the second principle is: there is no single absolute. the result counts no matter how you do it. You're not going to be right
Yeah.
100% of the time. You know that you won't force situations or force a principle of play that won't provide the same yield as something else. Any defense is good regardless of what it is if it's effective. The principle is good, it will hold true 85% of the time. So basically, if it works, he's utilitarian. If it works, then do that. And that's the
Yeah.
same with a shot. If a shot looks funky, but it goes in, 50% of the time or whatever's good for that shot, then don't mess with it. I guess maybe yeah, I wouldn't mess with it if it's
Well, I
great,
think he
great
talks about
percentage.
like innovation and stuff too, being sort of like, necessity being the mother of innovation kind of thing, of like the pivot and creative dribbling and stuff like that, is like some of these things players kind of like make up on their own,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
becomes something that other guys can use and practice, and becomes like a fundamental part of the game. But I
Hmm.
thought that was also really cool. um I love this, like the modus operandi. It says Ginger
Hmm.
Rogers once complained to Fred Astaire that he forced them to practice so much that she just hurt all over. Why do we have to work so hard? She asked, and he replied, to make things easy.
Hmm. That's good.
And that's just a good little kernel right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally lost my place now.
Your next one
Oh,
is what to be good at. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So for a player, oh, as a player, you want to be good at the things that happen a lot. So again, dribbling, passing, shooting,
Sure. And
pretty
that's
basic stuff.
great practical thought. Once he says it, oh yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so,
Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
I love the three basics. If a guy can't pass, the ball stops moving. If he can't shoot, he'll always be open. If he can't dribble, he cuts his value to the team by 1/3. So it seems like very specific. If he can't dribble, he cuts his
yeah.
value to the team by 1/3. But I guess he's using the rest of the other two as the other 2/3, right?
Right, yeah, because you can when you get the ball in triple threat, you can either dribble, shoot, or pass, right? So I guess
Yeah,
that's what he's saying. Those are the
yeah.
three options you can do right there. So,
Furthermore,
um,
if he can't dribble, the defense will attack him. So that's how you turn people over, find the weak dribbler.
right.
Uh, and then he goes into like the high school coach who does not make his players learn and practice dribbling should be arrested. That's
Yeah,
funny.
I
I
bet
was
you.
just,
Yeah, I bet you that a lot of people don't practice dribbling or aren't taught to dribble that much because it seems like a skill that even NBA players aren't always good at. Like Buddy and other players that are not great dribblers. And then maybe they're just
yeah.
encouraged to shoot, shoot. Buddy was encouraged to shoot, 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 and a center's encouraged to just do one dribble only and then back into the post. And but
Well, it's interesting. I was reading Kenneth Lofton Jr.'s like media day press release thing, whatever. But he was saying that in his because he grew up as a point guard, he was always a point guard, but when he got to high school, he grew like 5 inches, and they needed people to be fours and fives. And so he was like, "Well, I'll do it, whatever." But he was like, it was cool because I already had like the playmaking and the dribbling skills, and then I just had to add like my post moves, which I just kind of made up, and it worked. But I think that's I loved how he talked about having all the guys do all the skills all the
right,
time.
right,
Like
right,
you shouldn't let yourself get so pigeonholed or specialized that you can't do all of them, because then you're a detriment to the team anyways. And then if
right.
you want to become a better dribbler, dribble. If you want to become a better shooter, shoot. If
But I think it's
do those
important.
things.
Yeah, I think it's important that the high school coach because in high school you can create a team that wins. I think he says it somewhere else somehow without them being all around skilled players. You can have your point guard that can pass and dribble, a shooter that can two or three shooters, one or two shooters that can shoot really well, a center that can defend in the rim and back people down in the post to power forward. They can do whatever, but you don't have to be well rounded to win games if they're talented enough at their little skill, their singular skill. But if they want to make it to the next level, they probably gotta know more than just one thing that they can do. Although NBA players sometimes they could do things decently well, but if they are really, 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 really good at one thing, they can hang their head on that and have a good career. So I
Yeah,
guess maybe I'm wrong
yeah.
about that, but like, it's better to be skilled. And like one thing I was going to build on with what you were saying is that this one guy on the King's Herald, actually, he's a commenter. The best hyperbole ever is his name, his handle on King's Herald, but comments. But he says one time he said that it's not really small ball per se. It is small ball because the players are smaller generally, but really it's skill ball. Like if you got
Mm.
Victor Wembanyama, he's 7'4", but he's skilled all over the place. He does all sorts of different things pretty well. Like he can drive, he can pass, he can block, he can shoot, he can blah blah blah. He can do everything, right? He's a unicorn, so you don't care that he's 7'4". You don't. Oh, he's got to be 6'10" to be able to do that. It's like no, you want him to be as tall as possible, just and as long as possible. You just want him to be able to do the skilled stuff. That's all you really want is skill ball,
Yeah,
not
I
small
almost
ball.
think I almost think that's gotten better like over the course of the last like 15 years of like not just expecting the tallest guy to be the center, but like expecting him to have more skills and
Yeah,
do more. And maybe part of that is like that evolution part that Kurt Goldsberry talked about too of like look what, Kevin Love's career where it started and where it ended. So it's partially about what you are asking guys to do and how they fit into the game doing those things, and how hard they're willing to work at it. You know what I mean? So like if they're willing to transform themselves and take good direction, they can, for the most part. So and like you said, like the Wenbanyama, the but even I even look at like the most recent batch of centers like Jokic and Bede,
yeah,
uh, Jared Allen, all of these guys are so much more skilled. Even though like Shaq is probably my all-time favorite player, I absolutely loved him. He had so much athleticism at the beginning of his career, but I think because of the rules at the time, he was mostly expected to be a post player. That was the expectation, that was the requirement, that was what they emphasized, that was what he practiced. So it's like, yeah, but I do think it's changed. I think it's gotten um I think guys are expected to be able to do more of the things that happen all the time, I guess.
yeah. I agree. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that it's not really small ball. It's small. It's small ball because the players that have those skills at those positions, the traditionally bigger positions, tend to be smaller because they've been developing those skills from an
Yeah.
early age, right? Whereas if you have a team of, well, of course, 7 footers are usually not as speedy as shorter players. It's just in general. But I mean, if you had a team of 7 footers, but they had all the skills of a point guard and a center and a small forward, and it'd be great. Sure, taller the better, whatever. They
Yeah.
can,
Yeah. No, for sure.
but it's just the skills that
Uh
they want. Yeah. So
yeah. The truth about fast players, wherever fast players go, they always get there faster than slow players. Yep.
yeah,
I mean, that's funny and like it kind of, obvious and stuff, but he talks about it a lot more and he is talking about pace and space, right? I mean, that's what I interpreted it as is like, get down the court faster, set up faster, get going faster. Um, it's a huge advantage to be able to outrun, but also have these other backup plans for when that doesn't totally work out, right? And that's kind of what the game is today. Like, get a fast break if you can, or get your stuff off before everyone can get there, or, have this other backup pick and roll, um, you know, schematic or switch defense or what have you to go to. Let me see. I liked the way that he was talking about dribbling, how to him, like successful dribbling is being able to move other players on the court. And I hadn't thought of it that way before. Like, obviously, you're moving the ball also, but
Yeah.
everything is chasing the ball, right? So you're
Hmm.
moving the entire game with you. So a successful dribbler can move, the entirety of the game down the court, basically. And then he's saying, like John Stockton of the Utah Jazz, who has all the dribble moves, the defender has no idea what you're going to do with the ball. When you reach that level, then you're a dribbler.
Okay.
So
Well.
I had pulled and put Kyrie in here because he's my favorite. I also love John Stockton, but I don't know. Apparently, like successful dribblers have questionable politics, so it's like getting weird.
Oh yeah.
And
Um.
I think actually Kyrie's like more to me is more of like you watch him and you're like, what happened right there? Like I don't that doesn't compute. Like I've never seen that before. Um,
Hmm.
which actually in the space I was just in the and one space, she was talking about how Kyrie is one of the first players to come to the league and cite like some of the and one street ball guys as his like main inspiration for his dribble, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then he talks about passing. So what he loves about passing is how much it helps to build team morale. Passing takes tension out of a game, the tension of whether I'm going to get the ball and whether the other players have enough confidence in me that they'll throw it to me. Passing makes everybody feel part of the game and a part of the team, which is so true. It's so fun to watch good passing teams.
Yeah. For sure.
And then try not to talk too much about shooting. Spend that time shooting.
Yeah. Right. I get that.
Like, just
Kind
do
of like
it.
writing, right? Have you heard
Yeah.
that guy, that famous writer that said like they asked him like, what should actually become a better writer? You should write. What are you doing
Yeah.
here? Listen to me talk. You should be writing right now. I forget who it was, but some famous writer said that to a group of writing students at kind of college.
This is funny. A passer who can see people open is the same guy who sees where and when to screen, avoids picks, helps on defense. In other words, he can see.
So you're
Um,
thinking Domas right here when you highlighted this? I mean,
well, yeah, for sure. But I just also thought it was a cool concept that I
oh
think
yeah.
now it's more talked about as court vision, right? He has good court vision. And that's
Hmm.
what he's saying right here, but it's just in like a different, format. I think they talked about court vision in the 90s as well. I don't think that's such a, outdated concept or anything like that, but it's just an interesting one. I mean, and that seems like really important to know about the player that you're putting out there. Simple layup. Every player should have in his repertoire something that he can use to score. Um, so, I mean, he gets really detail oriented about a lot of the stuff, like having your hand under the ball in a layup, or like how to like go over a screen, or which I couldn't absorb that so much because I don't play ball. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm curious if it's useful, if you put it into effect. Let's see. Pass has to be perfect, right into his chest, so he's ready to shoot. That's really, really important. And then he talks about like the the coming up and down on a dime drill, which he doesn't do that drill, but it made me think of that saying, "Stop on a dime." And I'm
Hmm.
curious if that's where that saying came from. But like he's talking about having the jump shooter go straight up so that he doesn't uh,
Go
you don't
into the
let your body
defender.
drift, yeah, into
Uh,
the defender and disturb your shot or cause a foul.
yeah.
Nowadays, like I feel like in the that that used to be changed where you would want to drift and cause a foul.
Yeah, because the foul shot's better than jump shot, as we learned in
Yeah.
the other book. Yeah.
So I had this little drill to make foul shooting competitive. I divided the players into groups. Each player shoots 2 fouls in a row. As a group, they must make 15 straight. And if they miss, they drop back to 0. So that was one of the drills that he talks about in here, even though he says he hates drills. Um,
Yeah. But that's a good drill because, they're shooting foul shots, which they're going to do in a game. Like he does say, like the only drills he does is stuff that it's going to be in a game. He doesn't do like blindfolded whatever or something like that. Because you never know
yeah,
what a
or like
blindfold in the
dribble
game.
around cones or
Yeah,
something, like
yeah.
Instagram workout drills.
Right. Yeah. He just wants to do stuff that's going to actually happen in the game. He thinks so.
Um, and he talks about Jeff Petrie is the only gym rat I ever coached. Um, that he was just in the gym constantly. It sounded like he had like a lot of love for Jeff and a lot of love for that team, and you know, just very sweet about his reverence for Jeff.
Right.
Um, I have noticed that when a player shoots too often, his own teammates don't like it too much. But if he makes every free throw, no one gets upset with him except the other team. The free throw is the only shot in basketball where it's okay to be greedy. So that was good too.
Yeah. I mean, and he never he didn't see James Harden when he wrote this book.
Right?
He like gets fouled like so many times per game and takes every possession, and like half the possessions are James Harden getting fouled. So I'm
And
sure
makes
his other
free
teammates are
throw
like,
shots.
"Well, we're winning, but I'm not getting any
At what
looks because of this."
cost?
Yeah, yeah, you know.
Um, let's see. To the 100 little things, not one by itself worth very much, but together, whoa, all the little things did add up. He set a great pick. He blocked more layups from behind by chasing guys who appeared to have uncontested layups than any other player I have ever seen. He also made more guys miss layups because, uh, so he's just talking about how hard work is really important and you can work really hard to have great skills even when your talent isn't,
Right.
the greatest.
I'm thinking that
They
might be
talk
like Nick Carlson for Thunder, the Thunder. Might be kind of like what he's talking about there. Like he's
Yeah, that's
someone
a
who does the
good,
little things. Yeah.
yeah, like is in the right spot, is like watching I know I'm like overboard on this one, but watching KZ Okpala play for the Nigerian team,
Uh-huh.
like I was just really impressed like how he was in the right spot so many times. Like even if he wasn't, even if he didn't have the ball in his hand, he was guarding somebody. He was that where the rebound was going to come. He just was really good at like knowing where to be on the floor. So it's just little things like that.
Okay.
I'm a devotee of long range shooting. Um, a shot is never too far out if it goes in. I let the shooter tell me where he should go and shoot by watching to see how many shots he makes from where. So that is the day and age that we are in for sure. Um,
He doesn't really bring in any kind of like mathematics to it, though. I don't remember that at least. It is
I
3 point
feel,
shot. Go ahead.
yeah, no, that's true. And I do feel like this is a lot of what he's talking about is sort of, I mean, there was definitely analytics in the 90s, but this is sort of like the basis of analytics, right? Is is efficiency. He's talking about efficiency. Um, I'm trying to like, I mean, obviously a 3 point shot is worth more if it's a good shot, but if it's not a good shot, it isn't, right? So, I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, you can do as much math as you want, but that's what it comes down to essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and then he talks
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
about his like high school and college coaches, and he was just really generous towards them. And I think it was, let's see, so he was 40 years ahead of his time, totally organized, and the things he had us doing were unbelievable. This was the 40s, and he had us all court pressing, playing 1-3-1 zone, and using a delay game. We went 24-3 in both my junior and senior years, and I made all state. Now he
Yeah.
talks really, I think that was his high school coach, and he talks this really nice stuff about his college coach as well. And it was really cool how he talked about the advantages of being like, of coaching like the younger kids and then moving up through the ranks and being able to like teach the fundamentals to like the younger kids. And obviously some of them weren't even interested in being at the camps or whatever, but I liked how he talked about how it helped him be a better coach too.
Hmm.
um so and then the why practice thing, in every little drill, if you care to put enough maximum effort into it, almost everyone improves. The key is to make sure all drills are relevant. Certain guys don't go full speed in practice. Some NBA stars hate to practice, but you don't hear that about Michael Jordan. You don't hear that about Larry Bird. Um, there has to be something useful about practice, otherwise, why do it? I told my players I wanted 2.5 hours of basketball from them every day. It's not like some places where the players sleep late, mess around, blah, blah, blah. So he says, we always spent a half an hour on the fundamentals of dribbling, passing, and shooting. We then broke down into offense and defense, and sets were planned. So even like, and he talks about how even if you don't practice like the fundamentals, they get rusty. And I just like that he, said that everyone practice a little bit of those fundamentals all the time. And then I just went off on his defense stuff, so I just like highlighted everything. I probably shouldn't read it all, but he's talking about in a man to man, everybody knows what to do. Guard your man. In a zone, it's harder to tell who should do what. And when you start hearing, "Coach, I'm sorry, I thought," when you're getting that, you're dead. It's like it's harder to understand. Anyway, so he just goes through like, defense is like moving somebody, obviously stopping the shot.
Right.
Um, it's an
I disagree with this
attitude.
thing here. I disagree with one of something he wrote that you screenshotted. Where it starts with the paragraph, defense is not a variable; it's a constant. I can't. Defense has to be deeply embedded in your attitude. It's something you can do well every time with the individual and the team. A good defensive player plays good defense almost all the time. Shooting is a variable. 50% of the time you miss. I can't read that next word, but testing the jump shot is not a variable. Skill is a variable. Something is not a variable, not a skill. It's an attitude. Probably defense. What that is. In my because my players have suddenly been blazing fast. They've had to compensate with hard work. So yeah, I mean you can do well with defense and with offense, but you're gonna miss on offense sometimes, half the time, and probably at least, and unless you're shooting at the rim, and then you're gonna the player you're guarding is gonna make the basket, a little bit less than half the time on average, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's
Yeah.
defensive field goal percentage as well as offensive field goal percentage. So, you know, you can you
Well,
can
and
you
I
can do
think
well and they can
also,
still make it.
yeah. And also, I think it's important. I agree with what he's saying here in the sense that you can maintain the same effort on every possession defensively, right?
Right.
That,
Yeah.
but can you maintain the same level of success? And I think I more agree with like what Seth Partnow said in the mid-range theory is you can fail on defense. You can be playing your ass off and
Right.
foul somebody, right? It can just not go your way, either but because the call's bad or maybe you fucked up, maybe you got your arm in the wrong place. I mean, he's saying do everything right all the time, right? Which is impossible because we're human.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think you can definitely fuck up on defense too, and if you end up giving them points, that's the biggest fuck up of all. But that's probably not a good reason to not try to be good at it.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I'm just saying, he says it's a constant. Defense is not a variable; it's a constant. Well, I mean, I can see defense as a constant. I could see offense as a constant. Like go to the right spot. Have the right form and or do your best to have your best form you can have. And
Yeah.
just
I
do your
guess like
best.
the other thing that pops into my head here, even though he's not really saying it, but like watching some of the guys that Davion played last year,
Hmm.
like, and by the end of the game, they were just like fucking ragged as hell. Like they couldn't even get a shot up. But it's like applying that pressure to somebody
Sure.
throughout the
Yeah.
course of 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever it is can be an advantage in itself in a cumulative way, right? Because you can make somebody more tired than they would normally be in their allotted minutes, etc. So, anyways, he doesn't say that specifically here, but
But that's a
if you
great
can
point.
apply consistent and constant defense that is requiring more effort out of your opponent, then there's the immediate effect and there's the cumulative effect of tiring them out, which he, went through and said like he thought was one of the most important parts of the game is having courage. Like he talks about having courage as having, not being scared to get hit in the face for one, but also being able to play through being like dead tired, you know, which I
Right.
don't think everybody can do.
Right. Yeah. I think tie that in a little bit with what I would say is that you want it with a star player. Like you always hear like you're not gonna they're gonna get their points. Well, yeah, but they'll get their points, true. But you don't want to judge them by the points. They'll get the points. What you want to judge is by like their field goal percentage. How many shots it
Yeah.
took them to get the points. How many free throw attempts they were able to take. And you want to keep those low and keep the field goal attempts high and with the makes low, obviously, and hopefully like they take away opportunities from players on their team like because they're trying to win it all, and just lower their field goal percentages. I guess is the main goal for any defender. For a
Yeah.
star like Paul George or Allen Iverson, he's going to score 35 points in a game, but if he lowers his field goal percentage, then that's a win because that just takes away from the team
I guess
success.
like too, like I'm like thinking back to like there was a couple guys who like Davion would like shut down in like the first time that they went against each other, like James Boone night, like Book Night, however you say his name. Like I'm trying to think of like there was a couple other guys where Davion would like basically make them work so hard in their very first possession against him that they would just like be kind of shit out of luck for the rest of the game. So obviously that's not going to happen very often, but like if you can apply that extreme of a pressure, you know, throughout like the entirety of your minutes, there may be times where you have those few guys who you take entirely out of the game in the first like 5 minutes that you're going against them too. So that's what I think is so exciting about Davion. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's like an unusual type of skill set. And then in this day and age, you have to also, have enough offense to be allowed to be on the floor. So people don't have to make up for you, on the offensive end.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It helps to be quick and have long arms. So he says down here there's a technical part and a life part to defense. The life part consists of three things: courage, intelligence, and energy. And if you have a good dose of heart, head, and legs working for you, you can become a good defensive player. If your legs tire out, your heart surrenders and you won't move your legs. When you're tired, do you have the courage to fight through screens? So
Mhm.
that's more
Yeah.
of like that cumulative effect.
Reading that when you read that, it's kind of like it just makes me feel like to live life like Coach wants you to live is just the best way to live life. It feels like a Roman, some kind of Roman noble, hardy way to live life. Like be courageous, try hard, aim to win every time. Do your best to fight with honor, but try to win. And it just seems like a great way to live a noble
Yeah.
life. you know? When you
Only
read
it's the
that, it made me think
basketball.
about that. Yeah, yeah, but
But
with
I
apply
mean,
to basketball, yeah,
um, he went into this big thing about keeping. I kind of took like a bad picture of it though, but keeping your hands up on defense is one thing, but doing something with them is another. Like that drives me crazy when people say, "Put your hands up." It's like, okay, but why? Like, what are they going to do with their hands? Um, I've seen players who get their hands up but aren't using them to defend anything. So I think that's totally true. He talks about boxing out too at one point, which I don't think I have in here that I thought was hilarious. We was talking about like boxing out is cool, but like you can get yourself like twisted around so you just box yourself out, like, and that's not so great.
hmm
One I don't one is you have to contest or pressure the ball. That's key above all else. Two, your guys cannot get picked off and must go over screens. But he's like really big on screen navigation. Like I feel like he would be showing people exactly how to navigate screens in a really efficient way
yeah.
in any practice.
I feel like, and I say I feel like because I don't know, but I just anecdotally feels like Fox goes under way too much on screens. He goes over
Yeah.
sometimes, but like I mean, he kind of goes whatever is more convenient. You know, he'll like if it's like he can go if he's given the like the green light so to speak from the screener to go over, he'll go over. But if it's like too blocked out, he'll just go under and if they rescreen him, he'll go over that time. But it's like go over, man.
Yeah.
Unless that's not the plan. But like I
Well,
don't
see,
know the plan.
I don't know. Like, is that a coachy thing, like going over screens, or has that always been a part of, that's the way, that's the better way to navigate screens? I don't actually know, but I feel like that's a part of our vernacular of this day and age of basketball is you go over screens if you can. Like, but
Well, you don't actually have to. I haven't kept track of who he's going under on. Like people go under on Fox because they want to encourage him to take a mildly contested three that he's probably going to miss. And this was the end of the season. You know, he was not shooting too
yeah,
well from three, so they go under against a screen for Fox because they don't want him to drive in when if they go over, and they'd rather him take a three and maybe miss it. So it depends on the person you're guarding. I feel like too, and I
yeah,
think other teams do that as well. They know that as well.
yeah.
Like they don't go under on Buddy if they're doing it right. They don't go under on Buddy. They stay over on him. So if they can, uh,
Speed wins the race. My team's having to shoot better, pass better, play better defense, understand better what the game is about, but the opponents are better because they have speed. So that's like he loves fast.
yeah. But his teams
Um,
couldn't do that because he didn't have the players for that. He wasn't coaching at Duke or North Carolina or Kentucky, so he didn't have the players that could that were that fast. So he would play differently based on his players,
yeah,
as
yeah,
you said earlier with your what you pointed out earlier. Like he plays to his players' strength. He coaches to whatever his players can do the best. You
but he says speed follows luck and covers a multitude of sins. So I think he believes that if you can play fast, I mean the more traditional I think interpretation of that would be something like the more fast breaks you can get, the better. That's a great fucking play, right? I mean, that takes zero time in the game. Like, I mean, that's a simplification, but he seems to think that you need to have less of these other beefed up skills if you can play fast.
hmm
I would just add that playing fast is great, but you got to be able to play fast efficiently, right? If you're
Right.
just playing fast and like turning the ball over a million times, then you're just last year's Rockets. Like, you know,
Right. What is easy to off a miss? Like their teams would play fast off a make, the opponent make under Jaeger, but off a miss, it's like just easier to score. You know, if you're running and you got 3-on-2 or 2-on-1, you know, it's obviously just easier to score with, without them defense being all set up and ready to help each other. So
yeah,
that makes sense. But I mean, I'm sure I definitely trust Coach over me regarding like speed. Whether the speed is what matters. Obviously he's coached hundreds of games at this point, and knows how it works.
And maybe I mean maybe also like I mean I guess I'm thinking of it in like the pace aspect, which I agree with you. I don't think pace in itself wins games. It has to be accompanied by
Right.
a
Yeah.
level of efficiency. You can't, but it does help to have the 3 point be so prevalent in my mind. Two, I don't know. Maybe that's, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I want to watch fast gameplay. I think that'll be fun. I hope that's what we watch. I don't like watching games that get like super bogged down in each possession. Uh,
Okay.
unless there's great defense happening, then I like it.
Okay. Uh,
Let's see. We mainly try to get the point across that every little thing you do on offense counts. That means that every pass, every cut, every screen, every dribble is part of the end result and therefore requires care and concern. Timing and execution are the keys to everything we try to do. We try to make it simple and we work hard to make things easy.
like you quote that the other quote you gave about Fred
Yeah,
Astaire to Ginger
like
Rogers.
you
Yeah.
have to work so hard to make it easy in the game. Um,
Yeah, I
but I
like
mean
that.
that's that's what was so beautiful about Rick Adelman's Kings team, right? And which I think, has become was like the Phoenix Suns later was and is the Warriors now is that the passing it's like an orchestra,
Hmm.
of movement and deliberateness. Like and I noticed like rewatching a couple of the Kings games from last year, there was like a lot of cuts that were like that kind of went nowhere, or there was no expectation that the people were actually going to get the ball, or like fakes that like he talks about how fake passes and stuff can seem like wise sometimes, like if you're lying and people know you're lying, they're not going to bite on it kind of thing.
Hmm.
um and how back cuts like the same, like you need to like truly believe that you're going in one direction and then trick yourself into going the other direction. like
Yeah.
you need to believe to a certain extent in what you're doing and believe that it will be rewarded, which I think is like the value of having somebody like a Sabonis, is like he will find you if you get to the right spot, he'll find you, kind of thing. And I mean, same with De'Aaron. De'Aaron's passing is so underrated. Like
Yeah.
his bounce passing, his little like short roll passes, he can really fucking pass. And I think I forgot a little bit about it because of Tyrese, because like Tyrese is like a magician, but De'Aaron is also a phenomenal passer. Anyways, okay, so against a man-to-man, the offense must utilize hard cuts toward and away from the ball, down screens and back screens. It seems to me that the faster your team is, the more. Oh, I cut some. The more.
120, huh? I'll go to 120.
Yeah.
It's like the same edition of your book, the book you have. Yep. The more cut, it seems to me, the faster your team is, the more cuts you make, and the slower your team is, the more screens you have to use.
Oh,
Okay,
that's interesting.
that makes sense to me. No,
Yeah.
when you think about it for a second, yeah, if they're fast, if it's like Chemezi or De'Aaron doing the cut, they can just cut off and go to the rim and or go, yeah, or like Buddy can cut out to the 3 point line. But yeah, and then but if they're slower, yeah, you got to have a screen from the big and then go around the screen and make something happen like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
If he tries not to let you cut, he's playing denial defense or overplaying you, then cut behind him. This cut is known as a backdoor or a give and go. Well, he really likes that move, the
yeah,
backdoor. Um, I just, and this other thing was when he was talking about going to the bar and talking to Whiskey Steve and
yeah,
asking him about, and then being able to sell that little plan for, like, that he
right.
could just build around kind of any plan was funny to me. Make a zone run. if you insist on less, you get it. That's kind of like about him having high expectations and expecting a lot of his guys. But I also feel like when he was talking about his high school coach who taught them stuff that was like 40 years ahead, like I feel like in some ways that's the same kind of thing. It's like I'm gonna throw, like I've had professors before too, um, who just like load you down with shit, you know? And you're like, holy crap, like this is too much. I don't know Latin. Like, what are you talking about? But you, the expectation and the workload makes you work harder to attain it. And I think that's such an important concept. Even for guys in the league, like I feel like they should be studying a playbook every night, or like, hey guys, let's learn this. If you don't know how to play this gap defense, let's learn it and we'll start using it.
Hmm.
I mean, they're getting paid millions of dollars to like know basketball. So they should like be scholars of basketball in my mind, even though you maybe only use like so much stuff in an NBA game.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know
Um,
much about zones, honestly. I think the alignment, the numbers come is based on the general alignment, right? Like a 2-1-2 is two
yeah,
kind of at the wings, one at the nail, and two on the like the post, either low post or either dunker spot. I guess that's probably what that's like.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I don't know
So
how.
zones like nowadays, like probably the most fashionable one is like the box and one. So
Oh
where you
yeah,
have four guys like protecting the paint, and then you have a free safety, and like the famous one is Draymond, right? So and um, so basically you're making a shape, and then you have one or two guys who are functioning outside of that shape to protect against shooters, right?
right.
So, like for I don't know, like I was having it in a thread about heliocentrism, um, where I just think it's easier to guard. Like if you know that Luca is their only threat, like just shut him down. Like the rest of
Mhm.
it, and the rest of it's like make a shape around the paint. Like that's not that difficult. Now, whether it works, whether you have guys that can do that, the human aspect of it again, that's something different, right? Whether it's uh, executable.
I think it's something I read or heard recently. I think it was in the mid-range theory. He basically at one point said, um, offense has the advantage because they're making the decision. Defense is obviously going to react to the offense because the offense has the
Yeah,
ball and they decide we want to do this, so we're going to do this, and then defense has to stop them. So I mean, Luca is not like the most athletic NBA player you're ever going to run across, but even so, he can still if it's man to man coverage on him, zone the rest of the box and one, he can still break down that one guy that's on him, even if unless it's like freaking I don't know Gary Payton in his prime or I don't know who would be a great like Kawhi or whatever.
De'Aaron. I mean, De'Aaron is probably in my mind. De'Aaron's like one of the best navigators that there is. Like he's incredible at driving to the rim through various defenses. He finds seams. He's like yeah, he had a very down year. I get that a lot of people are soured on him, but just watching him play like a couple of those later games in the season, and you're just like, holy shit, like he just he's just faster than everybody, and he gets places that other players can't get. I mean, the thing about Luca is Luca's very beefy too, so I think he could be a little intimidating, like if he's completely driving at, I don't know,
Yeah,
Davion
yeah,
is like half
sure.
his size. Like, so you have to be, again, like going back, you have to trust in yourself and be courageous, and not flinch. And like, yeah, you're still going to get dunked on sometimes, right? But can you stop like 2 out of 5, you know?
Hmm.
And that's what good defense does. Or, I mean, the other thing that a really good defense can do is make you change your mind about the decisions that you were initially coming down the floor with, right?
Right.
And I mean, that's a matter of getting set up in time and, you know, I mean, I think any defense can do that. Move you off your spots. That's like the perfect, if you have your spots, can the defense move you off your spots and make you uncomfortable? And then bad decisions lead to bad decisions. So if you're uncomfortable enough to make a bad pass, the next guy gets the pass in a place that's not easy to shoot it from. He makes a bad pass. You know what I mean? So it's like a trickle up effect or trickle down effect of good decisions or bad decisions, really.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
So he talks about the and twos, which was like passing the ball back and forth. So it's passing. It's really a passing drill and a fun drill. You run up court, passing back and forth, then you shoot a layup. If you miss the layup, you have to run two more. Its main purpose and value was to help the players pass on the run and build camaraderie, that sense of working together to achieve something and to see what happens when one player makes a mistake. But it was also a pretty good running drill, a good finisher for a hard practice when the guys might have a tendency to let up on their concentration, something you want to avoid. Right, that just sounded like a cool and a fun and a pretty drill to watch.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Maybe if they can't even dribble. They say they dribble? Yeah.
I
I
think
guess
they
maybe
just
they
pass
maybe
it back and forth.
pass it back and forth. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
'Cause that'd be hard to do too. I feel like because you pass, you want to pass immediately, but the guy's got to get some distance down the court. Who aren't running. So of course it would probably. Well, actually, I take that back. It wouldn't be that hard. It would just be like getting used to it real quick and then start doing it. Yeah. But
Oh, I just like went all the way out of Twitter and like lost all my stuff there
okay,
wherever I was. Oh, here.
you got it.
So
Okay.
then team camaraderie, he's just talking about culture, right? Like he can see it
Yeah.
when his team comes on and off the floor. You can see their swagger and
hmm
tell if it's there or not. I
hmm
think that's just what we call culture like nowadays. And then
Yeah.
the when he was talking about recruiting in college, the more successful you are, uh the more apt you are to become a whore. I just thought that was funny. I once met a coach who told me he had been to 50 homes one winter to visit prospects, 50 homes. He sounded like the president of the American Burglars Association.
Oh.
Not a big
eh,
fan of recruiting or admissions offices.
Yeah, well, not bad at recruiting because you'd have to like sell. He's not a sales guy. He's not a sales guy. I think that's. I mean,
Hilarious.
you have to lie to them too. Like if you wanted,
Yeah.
it's tell them you're going to get playing time. He was honest with them, and like they didn't like that. That they weren't going to get much
Well, it's
playing
so
time.
funny because I almost feel like somebody. So, have you seen Friday Night Lights?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's
That
a
show.
football show
Yeah, that show.
basically,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they literally take this one of the stories out of here, which is that the coach, like, it's a football show, but it's like about a high school football coach who is like who wants to win, but he's making his guys better guys, in order to win, kind of thing. And there's a whole recruiting episode where he gets somebody to come to the team because he tells them, I'm going to make you work your ass off. I'm not going to give you anything. You're going to have to work to get out there on the field. And it's kind of like, basically lifted from here. I'm sure it's happened in other places before too. But it was kind of like when they interviewed Keegan today too. And well, they interviewed Mike Brown and he said, nothing's guaranteed. Everybody has to work for their time on the floor, point blank. Like there's no minutes, there's no rotation set, nothing like that. I'm evaluating that. And then Keegan said, "Oh no, I don't expect anything." He's like, "I know I have to work for everything on the floor." So I think that's like a common thread of athletics, period. And I'm sure most guys would want to do that unless you're like maybe Marvin Bagley or something, um, where you just want to start without actually earning it. No offense to Marvin.
Yeah. I think it was. No offense to Marvin. I mean, yeah, I don't want to talk much about Marvin, but like I think that was partially just his whole team Bagley, like his whole family dynamic, and he's kind of just It's hard to separate Marvin from his family, in my opinion. A lot of people do kind of implicitly, and his agent, but like,
Yeah, and I
it's
I
harder for
shouldn't
me.
have even said that. I don't
Yeah,
mean
okay,
to
yeah,
slag
yeah.
him. I
So,
like him. I just
yeah,
think it was such an unfortunate series of events that he never had the chance to develop and like become better really because he's always like getting some random little injury,
right,
and then there was maybe somebody better in the minutes or what have you.
right.
So
The
that's not
drama.
really his fault. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do what you're doing. So he just talks about like being in the moment and focus on exactly what you're doing. And I guess like I thought of this in a bigger picture sort of way too with the NBA of like where you're always like constantly under the gun of like maybe getting traded or but like if you can just be in the game when you're in the game, that's going to be your ticket basically to getting better to to all this other stuff that maybe seems like it's going to come no matter what, but just play your game, know your role, focus on being there when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then I just highlighted this other page down here because this is where he talks about the Kings and what he's going to be doing at the Kings. Um, and that he's going to be an assistant and he's excited for that and because he thinks like the culture has changed. And then the very last, the 3-point shot. I love the 3-point shot. You know why? Because it means they're giving us 3 points for the same shot we used to get two for.
Yep,
So
there
there's
we
your
go.
analytics.
Yeah, there we go. It's worth more. There we go. Yeah.
uh, and then once a game starts, the coach has to see whether what you're doing works and be ready to make a change. In general, when you're overmatched, you have to make the game shorter. And the way you do that is by making the points longer, by not shooting as quickly. After about 8 minutes on the average, a coach should have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And I thought that was kind of interesting too, is like people should be, that's usually like, so Jaeger switched guys out at 8 minutes. That was his rotation. That's when he would put his first subs in at eight
Mm-hmm.
minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Yeah.
like clockwork. Like, you know, um, I didn't notice it as rigid with Luke, but I mean similar. So I think that his concept here is better is the coach should be making adjustments. And maybe that's by putting different guys in, but that's kind of like a surface way of doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I just put a bunch of like that. I love that picture of him with all the guys around him. There's an Earl the Pearl spin move set of videos, which has
Oh
like
yeah.
Curtis Mayfield playing in the background, which is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie. And there was another guy who had done a whole thread on the book, but he just did it in quotations. That's really good too. And Drew had put this the UCLA game, like a set from the end of the UCLA game on film is in here.
Drew finds the most random videos. I guess it's the internet, so they're all over the place. But
Yeah, yeah. And then there's a couple playbooks which actually have his X's and O's in them. The Princeton
nice.
basketball playbook. So there's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 coaches boards with like, different screen sets and stuff like that. And which I thought was just fun to look at. And then his record from Princeton, which is fucking insane. Like, look at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
percentage is just,
Damn.
I mean, 889 one year. What? I think he has like one season in here that's under 500. And from 1967 to 1996, one season under 500. That's just sick.
Yeah. Damn.
And then, of course, a picture of him with Doug.
Mm-hmm.
And then I added on like the stuff that I saw, although I didn't add on. Robin Lopez did like a box out move where he looked like a weird caveman dude. And that was like the totally reminded me of the box out comment because it was so funny. But yeah, just like when Chima says, like almost word for word, that there's only one ball and he knows what to do, when he doesn't have the ball. And it was almost word for word this quote, the Letson number one on offense, um, which just makes me think that he's been exposed to it. Like I said, Jordy used that terminology. Mike uses the connectivity terminology. Um, it's just like it's so similar to some of the concepts in here that I can't imagine they haven't either been directly exposed to it or exposed through like other coaches,
Mhm.
get a good shot every time.
Yeah. I think that some of it might be kind of somewhat universal to coaching basketball or football
Totally.
or basketball, but yeah, I mean, coach. I'm sure a lot of people. He was a Hall of Famer, I mean, a lot of people looked up to Coach Carril, and of course
Yeah.
delivered the wins for many years at Princeton. So he was just well respected and went to the Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah, for
he
sure.
was he was the real deal.
I kind of wanted to go back, but I didn't have time, but I kind of wanted to go back and listen to because I love listening to Becky Hammond's post games
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because she tells you some stuff and she keeps other stuff secret.
Mm.
And the way that she talks about it is really interesting because she's very strategic about like the subs that she makes and stuff. She'll say, "Well, I saw this, so I put this person in because they can do this," and it's like so specific and good. And I guess I've gotten kind of used to listening to like the Luke, like, "Oh, well, we'll watch the film." like, feel like that's not helpful. like,
Yeah.
like I want specificity and details and you know strategy. So anywho, that's probably it. Unless you have other stuff, let me. I looked over your thread too, and I had pulled some of that stuff out and put it on the bottom of my thread.
There's one thing I wanted to. I was looking over mine, and there's one thing I wanted to bring up. Well, the one we already talked about it, but it's a 24-second clock versus a 30-second clock versus a 35 versus the 45 or whatever the numbers have been in college, and he says, what? Let me just pull one sentence out because it's they don't understand people that want 24-second clock. They don't understand that entertainment is at its highest level when the competition is at its highest level. Um, the 24-second clock, I don't think you would have enough time to execute your strategy. So that's what I was kind of thinking. It's like maybe with the NBA team would have more time, they could hopefully they wouldn't just laze the ball up, get the ball across half court still in 8 seconds. But then you have 30
I'm
seconds to
curious,
do
like
your stuff.
how many possessions they actually use the full shot clock. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you
Yeah,
could somehow go through and figure that out. But like on average, how many possessions? Obviously, sometimes you can't even make a move in the shot clock, right? I mean, because it expires on you and you don't get a shot. But I would think that's the minority of possessions. Um,
I read a part of a book by Dean Oliver, and he said that he wrote it a while ago, though, and he said it's but pretty much like 100 possessions, I believe. Probably that's per team. I'm pretty sure. Almost positive it's per team. So 200, possessions essentially, or
so what? So
maybe
okay.
it's
So
50,
say
maybe it's
there's
100, maybe it's 100 total.
well,
Yeah.
basically it's your pace, right? So say an average pace in the NBA is like last year, I think it was around 102 possessions.
Okay.
So, and then there's 48 minutes in a game. So how many 24-second increments are there in 48 minutes, right?
Yeah. There's about there's I don't know. You're gonna do that right now. I mean, I could do it too if you want, but
I don't know. I have a calculator out, but I'm just staring
sure.
at it because I don't
I'll,
exactly know how to
I'll
figure
do
this
I'll do
out.
I'll do it. I'll do it. 120. 120.
Yeah.
So, so
So for the most part, I mean, can we extrapolate from that for the most part the shot clock is not entirely used, or it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
used effectively. It runs out or what have you for the extra 18 points, right? The
Okay, yeah,
extra
sure.
18. And that may be a slightly faulty math, but
Yeah, I know what you mean though. I understand what you're saying. Like your point. So yeah. I just feel like if they had more time, maybe they could do more of these Princeton offense type, like the stuff that Drew showed in his little video that he posted. Like that.
yeah,
That took a while. That possession took a while to do. And
yeah.
can't it'd be hard to do that in a 24. It'd be like running up against the buzzer in a 24-second shot clock. So
I love
yeah.
this when the light bulbs, there are certain players I call light bulbs. They possess the essence of life as basketball players. When they come on the court, they light up the gym. I cannot name 5 players at Princeton who were light bulbs, but I can name 50.
Oh, I finally got that. I finally got that.
Yeah,
I didn't understand that last sentence until just now. So he can name 50. It's impossible for him to name just five. He can name 50.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I finally got it. Okay, got it. I was gonna ask you what that meant, and I thought, oh yeah, that's what it means.
I
Okay.
mean, what I interpret it to mean is it's like the guys, the joy of basketball guys, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
guys who are impossible not to love playing with, who are impossible not to love practicing with, who are like the heart, like for Sean, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and obviously you can have multiple, which is even better.
Yeah. I like this criticism thing. Let's see, it's third one down in the upper right. I think that there are two things about my forcefulness. My criticism is accurate and it's always honest. I don't praise them for doing what they know they can and should do in the first place. I always had trouble with my teams, and when we differ, we usually differ over definitions of fun. You have to be good at what you do, or else how can you have fun?
Yeah,
I just identify with that. Like I don't like stuff where I'm not at least halfway decent at it. I don't like to play it. If I'm not going to be any good, that's me. But I start each season not knowing how much they can give, but I know it is more than they think. Work is the main factor in their success. That is where their character comes out.
yeah.
Like I said, it's more like it's some Roman ideal Roman is Coach Carril. He's the ideal Roman, like all the Roman virtues and none of the vices.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Well,
like
and
what he
he
seems
and
like.
he does talk about like knowing he can make somebody better, but unless the person is receptive to the information and to the new, method, then you know, it's pointless. Like there was one, I think it was a radio interview that Coachie gave where he said, which I probably should have dug out too, but he was on the radio with Doug and maybe Jason Ross.
Jason Ross,
Uh,
yeah, so I heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, and Coachy said something like, "Oh, now I forgot what it was."
Oh,
But
okay,
he was talking about Vlade and how he thought he could have gotten Vlade to shoot the three, but Vlade didn't want to work that hard. So like
yeah,
he like fixed Vlade's shot and got it like going, but then Vlade was like, "Oh, I don't really like to practice, so
yeah,
I'm not going to put the time in to like you know." So
yeah,
that's the human factor again.
yeah. I found the one I was talking about earlier about that. I already described it, but I can read it because that's pretty funny to me. Because the book, if you're listening to this on podcast, he's super into winning. Like he loves to win, hates to lose, and I already said that. But like, here's the quote. I don't know what it was about before this, but he says you have to be a little careful. I remember late in the 1969 season, we went to Cornell undefeated, having already clinched the Ivy title. I said to my players before the game, quote, fellows, we have had to win a lot of games, but this is a game we do not have to win. We would like to win, end up undefeated in the league, but we don't really have to win. The pressure is off, close quote. So I was walking out of the locker room, and the players were huddled over in the corner, and they were making bets about how long it would take for that speech to hit the wastebasket. 40 seconds into the game, we're behind and playing badly, and I'm hollering like crazy. That's when I looked down my bench, and all my guys were laughing like hell. We won 74-64. I guess it mattered. It's just so great.
Classic. It's like having that stern dad, you know what I mean, who won't
Well,
let you get away with shit.
I think it'd be like just some guy who like he realizes on an intellectual level that like there's no point, there's no real reason to like strain yourself and try to win this game because we got it. We're going to the tournament. We won the league. Blah blah blah. And then but then like he just can't help himself to try
But you
to
can't
just
not,
have to
yeah.
win. Yeah, you have to win. Come on. Yeah. So
Hilarious.
that's the
Yeah.
last one I had there. Actually, I have a few more, but I don't think I want to do any of those. So I'm done.
Anyways, it was really good. I feel like it'll be another book that, I like I said, I've been like seeing it in like all of these like media things and like there's like carryover of so much of this philosophy and context to this day and age and to this day and age of like basketball philosophy, basketball teaching. So I don't know if it was him specifically, but clearly he was one of the great minds of basketball for a long time. I mean, if you just go by his winning record, I would think most coaches would want to know what were you doing that
Yeah.
caused that kind of a success. And then plus the 8 years with the Kings, like even though he was an assistant, clearly something carried over, right?
Right.
So, anyways, it's fascinating stuff.
Do you want to pick another book, or are we going to do that offline?
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Do you have? I'm trying to think.
I don't
How,
have much preference. I like the tanking book. Obviously, I'm into tanking. I'm a proponent of if it's gonna help the
is that
team
the Jake
win a
Fisher?
championship. Yeah, Jake
Yeah.
Fisher book. Yeah, Jake
Oh
Fisher
yeah.
book. Yeah,
Let's read that one. It was Built to Lose, I think.
yeah. I'm not.
Is that right? Let me look it up
Maybe
here.
we want to make wait until the Kings suck to read that book. Hopefully, we don't. We hope we don't read that book for a couple years,
The
right?
other
But
one I'm really interested in is Spaced Out, which
oh,
is
okay,
new.
okay. It's
Yeah, Built
another.
to Lose. Let me see. Spaced Out is by Mike Prada,
Yeah.
and it's like brand new. Like it just came out. Let me see what the.
I think actually I'm okay reading. I think that reason I had for not reading Built to Lose is kind of silly because like most Kings fans I know from the internet, are not going to be in favor of tanking no matter what. It's like me, Will, and Tony when it gets bad, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Let's read that one because I think the other thing is that is specifically about the Sam Hinkie experiment.
Yeah,
And so it's becoming dated with each
by the
season,
day.
basically,
Yeah,
because as you have like these accelerated rebuilds happening right now, like the Utah, Houston, OKC things happening, I think that kind of like blueprint of Built to Lose is maybe changing a little bit too. So yeah, I think that would be a super interesting one to read.
cool, great. So
Let's do
anyone
that
listening
one
to this
next.
you can get the book and you'll see Megalou's note about it or
Yeah,
tweet about it, and I'll tweet about it too. Yeah, but anyway,
awesome. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Real basketball soon. Yay.
what's that?
Real basketball soon.
Oh yeah, real basketball soon. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna have the game's gonna be on TV on. You can edit this out, I guess, if you want to later. But the game's gonna be on TV on Monday, NBA TV, and then on Thursday, I guess it's gonna be on NBC Sports, and then I think the final two games are not on TV, which is
Oh,
pretty lame.
bummer.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen. I asked the media guys, and none of them responded to me. I posted a picture of the schedule and then tagged them in the picture because I wanted to save space.
Yeah.
But none of them
Darn,
responded to
I
me.
think
So,
like I used to get like a stream from James when he worked for NBC. He would like
oh
push
yeah,
out one of the streams to everybody, but maybe we don't have that anymore. Hopefully they just figure out a way to get it on TV though. Sometimes they just don't publish it.
right. They do that like that. Local people can watch it on through the NBA.com app or
Yeah.
NBA.com/Kings. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to do some Mo space. I'm gonna ask them right now. Actually, if I can get in there in their waiting room for they're doing a space right. They're doing a YouTube podcast live podcast night chat right now. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right, awesome. Built to Lose.
okay, cool. I'll
In
get
a
it.
month.
Bam.
Cool, cool,
All
cool.
right.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.